Hey there, and welcome to This Explainer. Today, we are diving straight into some absolutely fascinating psychology drawn from the Balance is Better platform, specifically looking at the work of cultural intelligence expert Susan Salzbrunner. We're going to unpack the entire architecture behind our own self-imposed limitations. Have you ever felt completely stuck? And I don't mean by a lack of resources or physical ability, but by something entirely in your own head? Well, you're in exactly the right place. We're going to explore exactly how we build these mental walls, and more importantly, how to tear them down. To really wrap our heads around this, I want to share a super captivating story from the text. Just imagine walking past a group of massive, powerful adult elephants. Now, they aren't in cages. They aren't held by heavy steel chains. They're literally just standing there, held back by a tiny, flimsy little rope tied to one front leg. It makes zero sense, right? Well, a trainer explains that when these elephants are young and small, that tiny rope is actually strong enough to hold them. But as they grow into these absolute giants, they are completely conditioned to believe they cannot break away, so they never even try.
So, what does this all mean for us? Because, this isn't just a story about elephants. It's a massive metaphor for our own lives. How many of us are tied down by an invisible rope right now? Whether you're an athlete, a coach, a professional, or a parent, how many times have you mentally limited what you can accomplish without even realizing it? You absolutely have the strength to snap the rope, but the belief that you can't, that keeps you completely frozen.
Section 1. Defining mental barriers. Let's figure out what this invisible rope actually is.
Basically, a mental barrier is a fundamentally incorrect or unhealthy thought pattern. It's a limiting belief or an assumption you make about your own ability, your potential, or your self-worth that literally stops you from taking action. It's that nagging voice that stops you from asking for a promotion, or speaking up in a meeting, or stepping into a leadership role. The key takeaway here, it's not a fact. It's a completely self-imposed boundary.
And it's wild how these invisible ropes pop up in real time as everyday excuses. We deny our own ability, telling ourselves, "Oh, I could never lead this team." Or we perceive a lack of social support. "Nobody believes I can go pro. I should probably just give up." Sometimes it's a perceived lack of knowledge, like, "Why would they ask me? I don't know enough." Or even just a dysfunctional attitude towards a situation, like assuming your coach or boss is just way too busy to help you out. These are the rapid-fire excuses that keep us tied to the peg.
All right, moving on to Section 2, the 3 types of barriers. We're going to break this rope down into 3 distinct strands.
Let's start with strand number 1, beliefs about myself. When we feel utterly stuck in our careers, our relationships, or our personal goals, it is highly, highly likely we're stuck because of a limiting self-belief, not because of what's happening around us. As humans, we are just constantly comparing and evaluating ourselves.
Take this quote, for example. "I am just too small. I'll never be able to keep up with the others." This perfectly captures how quickly we spin stories in our heads that become our subjective reality. Athletes do this all the time. They'll say, "I'm just too small," or "I'm not the smart one. I'll just focus on working out and leave the tactics to someone else." These assumptions harden into facts in our minds, and they completely, artificially cap our potential.
Oh, and here is a massive one. Have you ever thought to yourself, when will they find out that I don't really belong here? This specific internal voice is known as imposter syndrome. And let me tell you, it is a wildly common, incredibly powerful mental barrier that makes highly capable, talented people feel like total frauds.
But the rope doesn't stop with just us. Let's look at the second strand, beliefs about others. This involves the assumptions we make when we're lacking information about another person or a situation. Because here's the thing, our brains hate a vacuum. They don't just leave a blank space, they fill it in.
This brings us to a super interesting concept called the filling in phenomenon. Did you know that our eyes actually have physiological blind spots, and our brains just automatically fill in the missing visual data to build a complete picture? Well, we do the exact same thing socially. If a coworker or a player doesn't reply to your feedback, you fill in that blank with assumptions based on past experiences, hearsay, or deeply rooted cultural beliefs. And this happens instantly. We look at a teammate and think, "I don't want to pass on the ball. He's just not confident enough to handle this situation." Or we just assume a colleague has zero interest in being a mentor. Boom. We've just created a limiting belief about someone else's capabilities based entirely on our own filled-in blanks. Or consider this one. "She always smiles, so friendly. She wouldn't be a great leader. She doesn't seem to be someone that can make tough decisions."
This perfectly showcases how superficial assumptions drastically limit the potential of the people around us. Just because someone is friendly, we assume they can't be tough? These kinds of mental barriers prevent us from building strong, diverse teams because we mistakenly think we already know who everyone is.
Finally, strand 3, beliefs about the world. We're all raised with cultural values handed down by our parents, our schools, the media. But if we don't open ourselves up to different ways of approaching goals, we severely limit our capacity to innovate. Our rigid ideas of what is normal actively block us from finding alternative answers to massive problems.
Just look at this classic example. Oh, these millennials, always on their phone, not ready to roll up their sleeves and do the work. The crucial point here is that these generalized, unconscious assumptions come with a tremendous opportunity cost. Saying things like, millennials don't want to work, shuts down communication and collaboration before it even has a chance to start. We are essentially tying ropes around entire groups of people.
Okay, section 3, cutting the rope. It is time to dismantle these barriers with an actionable plan.
So we've identified the ropes, beliefs about ourselves, others, and the world. If you notice these creeping in, or if you coach someone who is self-limiting, it's time to call them out. The author leaves us with 3 absolutely crucial questions to build a framework for freedom. First, what am I afraid of? A barrier is often just a convenient excuse to stay comfy in our comfort zone. Second, who told me that? You'd be amazed how many of our deep assumptions are just secondhand stories, not actual facts. And third, why is different a bad thing? We have to start believing in the positive intentions of others and realize that a new perspective isn't automatically a threat.
Bringing this all full circle back to our elephants, we can actively help young athletes, our peers, and of course ourselves develop into strong, capable leaders by releasing that immense pressure to conform. We need to build up realistic, evidence-based thought patterns. Let's not be the elephant tied down by an invisible rope anymore. Let's stride with pride and actively empower each other to break free.
I want to leave you with this final, provocative thought today. Take a really hard look at your own thought patterns. What invisible ropes are holding you back right now? What subjective realities have you created that are stopping you from acting? And most importantly, are you finally ready to cut them?